Above the azure Pacific, desperation took flight. A final, terrifying weapon unleashed against an unstoppable tide. Kamikaze, the divine wind. A chilling testament to a nation's resolve, shattering steel and men alike. On the ground, hell opened wide. Every inch of land, a bloody testament to courage and unimaginable sacrifice. This was the Typhoon of Steel. Okinawa, 1945, a battle that shook Japan's shores and changed history. By early 1945, the Pacific War had reached its brutal climactic phase. The Allies closed in. One last fortress stood in their path, a seemingly insignificant island, gateway to Armageddon. For Japan, Okinawa was the last bastion, a desperate, fanatical stand to protect the home islands. For the Allies, it was Operation Downfall's linchpin, a stepping stone to the heart of the empire. The stakes were immense, the scale unprecedented. The largest amphibious assault in Pacific history was coming. Both sides anticipated ferocity beyond measure. An unyielding clash of wills, fought to the very last man. The Japanese 32nd Army had meticulously prepared. Okinawa was a fortress designed to bleed invaders. American forces, hardened by years of brutal island combat, knew the price of victory. It would be high. Caught in the merciless crossfire were the Okinawan people, their homeland about to become a battleground. This tiny island, barely 60 miles long, held the key to ending the war in the Pacific. Even as victory loomed in Europe, the Pacific offered a starkly different, more brutal reality. The lessons of Iwo Jima and Peleliu were clear. Every island brought escalating, horrific resistance. The Japanese resolve to fight to the death was absolute. Surrender was not an option. Allied planners braced for the greatest challenge yet, deploying overwhelming force and technological superiority. The human cost would be unimaginable. A generation's sacrifice on a remote Pacific island, the world watched as the stage was set for an epic, blood-soaked confrontation. History held its breath. What unfolded was a battle unlike any other, a storm of fire and steel about to erupt. Welcome to a leading analysis channel. This is the story of Okinawa, the final fortress. The Pacific, an ocean of empires, witnessed Japan's swift, brutal expansion. A new global conflict ignited its shores. Imperial Japan's might seemed boundless, their strategic grasp extended far. Victory appeared assured, but the Allied resolve hardened. Across the vast Pacific, a counter-offensive slowly began to gather momentum. Each island fortress, a natural bastion, presented an agonizing challenge. A direct assault meant catastrophic losses. The path to Tokyo was a labyrinth of death. A brutal, direct confrontation seemed inevitable, yet unsustainable. Out of this grim reality, a radical new doctrine emerged. Island hopping, a bypass strategy. Instead of confronting every fortress, the Allies would leapfrog, isolating strongholds, cutting their supply lines. The bypassed garrisons withered, rendered strategically irrelevant. Time and attrition became powerful weapons. This relentless surgical advance conserved precious Allied lives and resources, accelerating the war's brutal pace. Yet, each chosen island became a crucible. The Pacific campaigns were a brutal symphony of fire and steel. Through desperate courage and grim determination, the Allied advance steadily pushed closer to Japan's home islands. With each captured atoll, the Allies tightened the noose. The doctrine of island hopping proved brutally effective. Tarawa, a grim testament to Japanese resistance. Marines paid an unbearable price for a tiny coral atoll. Tarawa revealed the terrifying reality. Japanese defenders would fight to the last man. Surrender was not an option. Saipan presented similar horrors. The island became a graveyard for tens of thousands of lives. The harrowing events at Saipan, including civilian suicides, unveiled a tragic, fanatical national commitment. Even facing overwhelming odds, Japanese soldiers launched banzai charges, a desperate, doomed but resolute defiance. With each captured atoll, the Allies tightened the noose. The doctrine of island hopping proved brutally effective. In Tokyo, desperation grew. Their empire was crumbling. A new, more brutal defense strategy was forged. Each hard-won victory, though costly, reinforced the Allied momentum. The path forward was paved in blood. No longer focused on beach defense, Japan shifted to defense in depth. They would bleed the enemy slowly. Every hill, every cave became a fortress. Each inch of ground would be contested with fanatical resolve. The Bushido Code, distorted by extremist ideology, fueled their unwavering commitment, death before dishonor. This fanatical resistance, seen in previous campaigns, set a terrifying precedent for future Allied assaults. Iwo Jima, a volcanic island transformed into a killing ground, its name synonymous with savage combat. Beneath Mount Suribachi, the fighting raged for weeks. Japanese defenders, entombed in tunnels, fought to the last breath. Only a handful of prisoners were taken on Iwo Jima. The vast majority chose death over capture. And then, a new terror, the Kamikaze, a terrifying suicidal weapon foreshadowing an apocalyptic struggle. These brutal island campaigns forged a hardened Allied force, accustomed to unimaginable challenges and relentless warfare. They also instilled a deep, unsettling understanding of Japanese resolve. Surrender remained an alien concept. The strategic imperative for Okinawa, the final stepping stone to Japan, became starkly, chillingly clear. These blood-soaked islands set the grim psychological backdrop for the ultimate battle, the Typhoon of Steel. As the war raged, the Empire of Japan prepared for a final, desperate stand on the island of Okinawa. This was no random resistance. Okinawa's defense was meticulously planned, a fortress forged from desperation. At its heart lay Kikusui, the floating chrysanthemum, a chilling testament to their unwavering resolve. It symbolized the mass sacrifice, a wave of human-guided missiles against the mighty American invasion fleet. The Kikusui tactics unleashed waves of mass kamikaze attacks, a horrifying new dimension of warfare. These suicidal assaults aimed to cripple the American fleet, disrupting their landing and breaking their will. More than destruction, kamikazes were psychological weapons, designed to instill terror and wear down the enemy. Each dive was a thunderous impact, tearing through steel and flesh, leaving behind fire and devastation. The skies above Okinawa became a maelstrom as the US Navy faced this unprecedented aerial onslaught. Beneath the surface, Japan forged another formidable defense. Deeply entrenched cave systems, labyrinthine and deadly. Extensive tunnel networks connected these subterranean strongholds, allowing concealed movement and unexpected counterattacks. These fortifications were designed to bleed the invaders white, turning every inch of Okinawa into a killing ground. From natural geology to man-made defenses, Okinawa was transformed into an almost impregnable fortress island. The island's unforgiving landscape became an ally, perfect for guerrilla tactics and protracted, bloody resistance. Leading this desperate defense was Lieutenant General Mitsuru Ushijima, commander of the 32nd Army. Ushijima embodied the samurai spirit, his leadership inspiring an unwavering resolve among his forces. The 32nd Army, under Ushijima, consisted of veteran troops prepared for the ultimate sacrifice. Their strategy focused on a grueling war of attrition, maximizing American casualties at every turn. For them, surrender was not an option. They were resolved to fight to the very last man. Deeply ingrained cultural values fueled their readiness for death, a powerful, terrifying commitment. Every soldier understood the grim reality. Okinawa would be a suicidal defense, a final, bloody testament. Amidst this strategic planning lay a tragic truth: the conscription of local Okinawan civilians into defense. Farmers, students, and elders were forced into service, becoming unwilling combatants in their homeland's defense. The human cost was immense, transforming the peaceful islanders into pawns of a desperate war. They dug tunnels, carried supplies, and even fought, becoming unwilling, tragic participants in the conflict. Such desperate measures highlighted the Empire's grim resolve, every available soul for the defense. Okinawa truly became Japan's final stand, a horrific crucible where every life was expendable. This was the Typhoon of Steel, a prelude to the bloodiest battle of the Pacific War. Okinawa, a small island, yet a vital stepping stone toward the heart of Imperial Japan. Its strategic importance was immense. April 1st, 1945, Operation Iceberg commenced, the largest amphibious assault in the entire Pacific theater. United States Army and Marine Corps forces gathered, an overwhelming display of military might converging on the Dragon's back. Under the cover of a massive naval bombardment, the first waves surged towards Okinawa's beaches. The air crackled with tension and the roar of engines. Thousands of young men braced for the unknown. Marines and Army infantry poured onto the designated landing zones. The initial moments were chaotic yet crucial. Remarkably, the landings met with little resistance. A strange, unsettling quiet hung over the battlefield. This deceptive ease was unsettling. Veterans knew that such silence often foreshadowed something far worse. Heavy armor and vital supplies quickly followed the infantry. The beachhead expanded with surprising speed. Initial objectives were secured with minimal casualties, reinforcing the illusion of an easier than expected invasion. The American forces began their push inland, crossing the coastal plain with an almost eerie lack of opposition. Mile after mile, the advance continued. Okinawa seemed to surrender its territory without a true fight. But this apparent weakness was a deliberate Japanese strategy, a calculated and deadly trap. The Japanese had pulled back, choosing not to contest the beaches. They would make their stand elsewhere. As the troops moved deeper into the island's interior, the terrain grew more rugged and treacherous. Then, the first brutal encounters began. Small pockets of determined Japanese resistance emerged. Sniper fire and quick, deadly ambushes tested the American resolve. The enemy revealed its presence. These initial skirmishes were fierce, stark reminders that the battle for Okinawa was far from over. The first casualties mounted, a grim prelude to the unimaginable scale of death to come. The island's harsh topography, a labyrinth of hills, ridges, and hidden caves, favored the defenders. Allied forces were pushing inland, unaware of the vast, intricate network of Japanese defenses below them. General Ushijima's strategy was clear: trade space for time, bleed the Americans dry, and fight to the last man. Every hill, every ridge, every cave had been transformed into an impregnable fortress. Okinawa was a death trap. The quiet advance was a cruel deception. The Japanese were drawing them into a meticulously prepared slaughterhouse. Reports of light resistance quickly turned into warnings of heavily fortified positions. The true battle was beginning. The brutal nature of cave warfare and entrenched defenses would soon demand new, horrifying tactics. The logistical challenges were immense. Every inch of ground gained was paid for with sweat and blood. Artillery and air support would be crucial, but even they struggled against the deeply dug-in Japanese. The true cost of Operation Iceberg, the Typhoon of Steel, was slowly starting to reveal itself. Towns and villages, once peaceful, would become battlegrounds, turning civilian homes into fortresses. The terrain itself was an enemy, slowing the advance and providing ample cover for Japanese ambush tactics. Sugar-cane fields became death traps, concealing enemy positions and making every step a deadly gamble. The Japanese fought with fanatical determination, often to the last man, showing no quarter and expecting none. Naval guns roared, relentlessly pounding suspected enemy positions, yet the Japanese remained stubbornly hidden. Air power joined the assault, but even overwhelming aerial supremacy struggled against deeply fortified emplacements. The relentless strain of combat began to wear on the American forces, physically and psychologically. Ahead lay the Shuri Line, the heart of Okinawa's defenses, a masterpiece of subterranean engineering and resolve. Every cave, every dugout, every tunnel would have to be cleared, often with flamethrowers and satchel charges. Close quarters combat became the norm, a brutal, visceral fight for every single yard of ground. The idyllic Dragon's Back had transformed into a fire-breathing beast, waiting to unleash its fury. The Japanese plan was devastatingly effective: lure the enemy in, then unleash hell from unseen positions. The initial, deceptively easy advance was over. The true nightmare of Okinawa was about to unfold. This was not just a battle for territory, it was a brutal war of attrition, a test of pure endurance. The Typhoon of Steel was no longer a distant threat. It had landed, ready to shake Japan's shores. The island of Okinawa, a strategic prize, concealed a fortress unlike any the Americans had ever encountered. At its heart lay the Shuri Line, a vast interconnected network of formidable Japanese defenses. Carved into the very rock, it comprised caves, pillboxes, and intricate underground passages. The initial Allied push would soon collide with this impenetrable barrier, a true test of their resolve. Weeks of relentless combat lay ahead, a brutal dance of death across Okinawa's unforgiving landscape. American intelligence initially underestimated the depth and resilience of the Shuri defenses. Early advances quickly turned into grinding, house-to-house and hill-to-hill combat. Every meter gained was paid for in blood, signaling the true nature of this brutal campaign. The Shuri Line plunged them into savage trench warfare, a hellish existence of mud and close-quarters combat. Defensive positions were expertly camouflaged, turning every patch of ground into a deadly trap. The Japanese defenders, well-supplied and fanatical, held their ground with unwavering tenacity. This was attrition warfare at its most brutal, a test of will against seemingly insurmountable odds. The Shuri Line was designed for maximum lethality, a multi-layered death trap for any attacker. Underground networks allowed troops to reposition, flanking and surprising American advances. General Ushijima's strategy was simple: inflict maximum casualties, making an invasion of Japan unthinkable. These static defenses were integrated into the terrain, rendering traditional artillery bombardments ineffective. Allied naval power was immense, raining down torrents of steel upon the Japanese defenses. Cruisers and destroyers pounded the coastline, attempting to soften the enemy's hardened positions. Air support joined the fray, dive bombers and fighters targeting visible strongpoints and troop concentrations. Yet, even with overwhelming firepower, dismantling the Shuri Line was a painstaking, brutal affair. Key clashes defined this grinding struggle, each hill a monument to unimaginable sacrifice. Kikusui Ridge became an early crucible, its formidable defenses repelling repeated American charges. For days, the battle raged, leaving behind a horrific toll on both sides of the ridge. Then came Sugarloaf Hill, a seemingly insignificant rise that cost thousands of lives. The fighting for Sugarloaf was savage, a testament to the Japanese will to resist. The elements themselves conspired against the combatants, with mud and rain hindering every movement. Amidst the Typhoon of Steel, entire landscapes were pulverized, transformed into desolate wastelands. Japanese snipers and hidden machine gun nests turned every step forward into a perilous gamble. Clearing caves was a horrifying task, often involving flamethrowers and point-blank grenade assaults. This was attrition warfare at its most brutal, a test of will against seemingly insurmountable odds. Casualties mounted daily, creating a continuous flow of wounded and dead from the front lines. Each casualty underscored the brutal cost of securing this island, a horrifying price of victory. Both sides employed innovative, often desperate tactics to gain any tactical advantage. Japanese night infiltrations sowed fear and confusion, disrupting American rear areas. American ingenuity brought specialized tanks and armored bulldozers to crack the Shuri Line. Banzai charges, though suicidal, showcased the unwavering, fanatical spirit of the Japanese soldier. The relentless fighting scarred combatants deeply, leaving indelible marks on their psyche. Every day brought new horrors, pushing men to the brink of human endurance and sanity. The Typhoon of Steel was not just artillery, it was the ceaseless, psychological torment of combat. Logistics became paramount, sustaining an army fighting day and night for weeks on end. The advance was agonizingly slow, each captured position demanding immense sacrifice and bravery. Every day brought new horrors, pushing men to the brink of human endurance and sanity. With its core defenses breached, the Japanese began a grim retreat to Okinawa's southern fortress. But the fight was far from over. The southern tip of Okinawa held even more deadly surprises. As the brutal ground war raged across Okinawa, an equally ferocious and unprecedented naval conflict exploded on the surrounding seas. This was the largest invasion fleet ever assembled in the Pacific, a testament to Allied might, poised to strike Japan. But beneath the surface of this immense power, a chilling new chapter of naval warfare was about to unfold. Japan, facing imminent defeat, unleashed a desperate, fanatical weapon, the Kikusui Kamikaze suicide attacks. From Kyushu's airfields, hundreds of pilots, imbued with a spirit of divine wind, launched their final missions. These were not conventional air assaults. These were living guided missiles, aimed directly at the heart of the Allied fleet. Waves of kamikazes, often poorly trained but utterly determined, threw themselves against the formidable invasion force. Allied sailors, exhausted from endless bombardment and constant vigilance, braced for impact, knowing death lurked above. The scream of engines, the roar of anti-aircraft fire. The skies above Okinawa became a horrifying gauntlet of steel. When a kamikaze struck, the destruction was absolute. Explosions ripped through decks, igniting fuel, tearing steel apart. Despite the shock, Allied crews fought with incredible bravery, battling fires, shoring up damage, and saving lives. Aircraft carriers, the irreplaceable backbone of the fleet, became prime targets, their vast decks vulnerable to suicide dives. And below the surface, Japanese submarines stalked their prey, adding another layer of terror to the relentless naval war. The air was thick with smoke, the sea littered with wreckage. Days blurred into nights of constant battle and repair. The human cost was immense. Thousands of Allied sailors were killed or wounded in these unprecedented suicidal assaults. The US Navy bore the brunt of these attacks, suffering devastating losses of destroyers, transports, and even capital ships. Over 300 Allied ships were hit, with dozens sunk, making Okinawa's naval campaign the deadliest for the US Navy. British Commonwealth forces, part of the immense fleet, also faced the terrifying kamikaze threat with courage. Their armored flight decks proved more resilient, yet the psychological toll and constant danger remained equally profound. The Kikusui operations were a desperate gamble, a last-ditch attempt to halt the Allied juggernaut at Okinawa's gates. Through sheer tenacity and unwavering courage, the Allied sailors weathered the storm, holding the line against fanaticism. As the kamikaze fury raged, far to the north, a legend was preparing for its final doomed voyage. The battleship Yamato, the largest and most powerful warship ever built, represented the Empire of Japan's naval pride. Armed with colossal guns, she was a floating fortress, once intended to turn the tide of the Pacific War. Now on April 6, 1945, Yamato received her final, suicidal orders. Operation 10, Go. Her mission, steam directly to Okinawa, beach herself, and fight to the last man as an immobile coastal battery. With barely enough fuel for a one-way trip, her crew understood their fate. This was Japan's last gasp at sea. Yamato sailed with a small escort of destroyers against an enemy with overwhelming air and naval dominance. Inevitably, on April 7th, US Navy reconnaissance aircraft spotted the Japanese task force. What followed was a relentless, multi-wave assault by over 300 US carrier-based aircraft. The mightiest battleship in history was about to face the full fury of American naval air power. Yamato's formidable anti-aircraft defenses erupted, attempting to ward off the relentless aerial onslaught. Yet, wave after wave of bombers and torpedo planes pounded the battleship, scoring hit after devastating hit. Torpedo after torpedo ripped into her port side, causing massive flooding and a critical list. The battleship, designed to withstand immense punishment, began to succumb to the overwhelming concentrated attack. On board, the crew fought heroically, despite knowing the battle was lost, displaying incredible resolve to the last moment. With her main gun turrets jammed and power failing, the great Imperial Japanese Navy's hope began her final descent. A cataclysmic internal explosion, perhaps from her aft magazines, finally tore the mighty Yamato apart. The pride of the Imperial Japanese Navy rolled over, her mighty hull rupturing, and vanished beneath the Pacific. Her sinking marked the definitive end of the Imperial Japanese Navy, as a major offensive force. It was a testament to the absolute supremacy of carrier air power in modern naval warfare. Of Yamato's over 3,300-man crew, only a few hundred survived the Typhoon of Steel and Fire. The sea battle around Okinawa was unprecedented, showcasing both desperate Japanese sacrifice and Allied endurance. It solidified Allied control of the seas, isolating Okinawa and bringing the fight ever closer to Japan's home islands. June 1945. The Typhoon of Steel finally subsided, leaving an island utterly ravaged. But the end of combat only revealed the true, horrific cost of this brutal, protracted struggle. All parties involved, from combatants to innocent civilians, paid an unimaginable, ultimate price. The United States Army and Marine Corps, victors, yet deeply wounded by the campaign's ferocity. Relentless Japanese resistance ensured every inch of ground was paid for in American blood. Thousands of American lives extinguished. 12,520 killed in action, a staggering and somber tally. Over 38,000 wounded, many critically. The battle left deep physical and psychological scars. An additional 33,000 suffered non-battle casualties, the relentless stress taking its own toll. Okinawa became America's bloodiest engagement in the Pacific, a chilling, costly lesson. For the Empire of Japan's 32nd Army, their fate was sealed long before the final assault. Committed to fighting to the absolute last man, surrender was simply not an option. Almost every Japanese soldier, around 110,000, perished defending the island. Entire divisions, whole units, were effectively wiped off the face of the earth. Mass suicides and fanatical charges marked the desperate, brutal final moments of resistance. Their unwavering resolve, though militarily futile, underscored the conflict's horrific nature. Okinawa consumed Japan's finest, a devastating, irreparable loss for the entire nation. But the most tragic victims were Okinawa's innocent civilians, caught in the devastating crossfire. Their beautiful island home transformed into a fiery hellscape, a merciless battleground. Estimates suggest over 150,000 Okinawan civilians, nearly half the population, perished. Many were caught in bombardment, others forced into labor or driven to tragic mass suicides. Their ancient culture, their entire way of life, irrevocably shattered by the invasion. Raw statistics paint a grim picture, a staggering, unholy trinity of human suffering. Beyond the numbers lies an immense human cost, a deep ocean of individual pain. Generations forever scarred, families shattered, a silent testament to war's ultimate brutality. This Pyrrhic victory secured a vital staging point, a crucial stepping stone to Japan. But the cost of Okinawa cast a terrifying shadow over the impending invasion of the home islands. Okinawa, the Typhoon of Steel, was a brutal, bloody chapter, forever seared into history's pages. The Typhoon of Steel left an indelible scar, a profound and disturbing legacy that would echo across oceans. Okinawa's battle was a maelstrom of unprecedented ferocity, a grinder of flesh and steel unmatched in the Pacific. Japanese resistance proved fanatical, a desperate defiance against overwhelming odds, pushing American resolve to its limits. As Okinawa fell, Allied strategists peered into a terrifying future: the invasion of Japan, Operation Downfall. Projections revealed catastrophic casualty rates for the invasion. Millions, both Allied and Japanese, were foretold. Okinawa's brutal lessons profoundly influenced American decision-making. The cost of victory had become horrifyingly clear. Into this grim calculus entered a new, terrifying variable: the atomic bomb, a weapon of ultimate destruction. Leaders faced an unthinkable choice: perpetuate the bloodshed with conventional invasion, or unleash unimaginable power. The moral dilemmas were immense, a heavy burden on the shoulders of those tasked with ending the war. Strategic calculations weighed Okinawa's horrific example against the projected carnage of a full-scale invasion. The blood spilled on Okinawa painted a stark picture of the future, dictating an agonizing path forward. Operation Downfall's projected cost, illuminated by Okinawa's savagery, made the alternative seem horrifyingly viable. The unprecedented ferocity of Okinawa made the unthinkable an option: a desperate gamble for peace. The ultimate decision was made, driven by a desire to save lives, both Allied and Japanese. In the aftermath of the Typhoon of Steel, the world held its breath, awaiting the next decisive blow. This choice, born from Okinawa's shadow, irrevocably altered the course of World War II. The Pacific theater, and indeed the entire global conflict, veered onto an unforeseen, cataclysmic trajectory. Okinawa's legacy reverberated, fundamentally shaping not just the war's end, but global history itself. The island's sacrifice casts a long shadow, a poignant reminder of humanity's most profound, difficult choices. Okinawa, 1945. A name etched into history, a battle that forever changed the course of World War II. The Typhoon of Steel stands as one of the deadliest encounters in a war defined by unprecedented conflict. Amidst the unimaginable horror, tales of extraordinary courage and sacrifice emerged from both sides. The island became a crucible of unfathomable devastation, a stark testament to humanity's destructive capacity. Its legacy extends beyond the battlefield, reshaping military strategy and international relations for decades. Okinawa redefined amphibious warfare and the brutal cost of invading a determined, entrenched enemy. The battle profoundly influenced post-war US-Japan relations, solidifying a complex, enduring alliance. For the nations involved, Okinawa remains a deep, collective memory, a somber lesson for future generations. The echoes of that brutal campaign still resonate today, a lingering reminder of the ultimate price of war. We honor the immense bravery and mourn the countless lives lost in that crucible of steel and fire. From the hallowed grounds of Okinawa, our journey into epic military history continues. Join a leading analysis channel for more deep dives into the defining moments of humanity's past. To support our mission of delivering unparalleled historical analysis, please subscribe, like, and share. Your support allows us to continue unearthing these vital stories, bringing epic history to life.